What tea? Come in. Here. You won't be a source of laughter. The words came out firm from the landowner's mouth, but Clara's heart almost stopped. She looked at the imposing man, his face etched with the pain of someone who had lost everything and couldn't understand. Why was he taking her in? Why her, of all people, who had just fled the dressmaking shop where women laughed at her body, her manner, her very existence? Tears still wet her face as he held the door, waiting. And inside that manor house, something was out to change forever. Before we dive into this story, leave your comment with a rating from 1 to 10 and tell us which city you're joining us from. May this moment bring reflection and emotion to your heart. The humiliation still burned on Clara's skin as she stood before the door of the manor house. Her worn dress clung to her sweaty back, and her hands trembled, clutching her wrinkled apron. She wasn't quite sure what she was doing there. She had run out of the dressmaking shop, the laughter echoing in her ears like invisible whips, and her feet had simply brought her to this place. The St. Teresa estate was the largest in the region. Everyone knew the story of its owner, Augustus, who had been widowed a year and a half ago. They said he barely spoke to his employees, that he spent hours locked in his study staring at his deceased wife's portrait, that he had never smiled since the funeral. Clara had only seen him from a distance a few times, always serious, always distant, and now she was there, in front of the main door, not quite understanding what had made her knock. Perhaps it was desperation. Perhaps it was the exhaustion of carrying so much weight. And she wasn't just talking about her body, but the way people looked at her, as if she were less of a person for being plump. When the door opened, Clara almost turned around and fled. Augustus was even more imposing up close, tall, broad-shouldered, with graying hair at his temples, dark eyes that seemed to carry an ocean of... He looked her up and down, but not in the cruel way she was used to. It was a different kind of look, almost curious. "Can I help you?" His voice was deep, but not frightening. Clara tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. The tears returned, and she felt ridiculous. There she was, crying on a stranger's doorstep, not even knowing how to explain what she wanted. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come here." She began to back away, but he took a step out, holding the door. "Wait." Augustus observed her face, swollen from crying, the way she hugged her own body, trying to hide. And then he said the phrase that would change everything. "Come in. Here. You won't be a source of laughter." Clara stopped, petrified. How did he know? How did he know exactly what had happened, what she was feeling? She raised her wet eyes to him, and Augustus simply stepped back, opening the way. "You don't need to be afraid. Come in, have a glass of water. No one will judge you in here." And so, almost by accident, Clara entered the manor house for the first time. The interior was surprising. She had expected something somber, sad, but what she found was a house full of light. The large windows let the sun cast, illuminating the dark wooden furniture, the paintings on the walls, the polished floor that gleamed. It smelled of beeswax, wood, and something she didn't immediately identify: bread. "Sit down." Augustus pointed to a chair in the inn. Clara obeyed, still shy, still unable to believe He picked up an earthenware pitcher and poured fresh water into a glass. "Drink slowly." Clara drank, and the cold liquid went down like relief for her constricted throat. Augustus asked no more questions. He simply cut a slice of homemade bread, spread butter on it, and placed it in front of her. The gesture was so simple, yet Clara felt something break inside her. No one ever had cared for her that way. "Thank you." Her voice came out thin, almost a... He nodded and sat on the other side of the table without pressure, without demanding The silence between them was strange, but not Clara ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it were the best food in the world, and perhaps it was, because it was seasoned with something she hadn't received in a long time: kindness. "You work in dressmaking, don't you?" Augustus asked after a while. "I've seen you passing on the road with the other young women." Clara swallowed hard and nodded. "I'm an apprentice. I don't think I'll be able to go back there after today." "Why?" She hesitated. How to explain? how to put into words the humiliation of being the target of jokes, of having knocked over an expensive roll of silk, and hearing Camilla, the foreman's daughter, shout in front of everyone that even the fabrics couldn't handle her weight. How to say that all the others laughed, that the head seamstress merely sighed and told her to go home for the day. I made a mistake, and the other young women, Clara took. They don't want me there. They say I get in the way, that I'm clumsy. Augustus was silent for a moment, his eyes fixed on her. Then he stood up and went to picking up a thick, leather-bound book. He returned and placed it on the table. My wife, Helen, was also a dressmaker, one of the best in the region. He ran his hand over the book's cover with a delicacy that contrasted with his large, calloused hands. This is her notebook. It has techniques, drawings, family secrets. It needs restoration. The cover is worn, and some pages are loose. Clara looked at the notebook as if it were a sacred relic. Can you sew? Yes, sir. It's the only thing I know how to do well. Then I have a proposal. He pushed the notebook towards her. Restore this notebook for me. Make it beautiful again as it once was. And in return, you can come here every day, work calmly, with no one laughing at you, no one judging. When you finish, we'll talk about what to do next. Clara's eyes widened. You're offering me work. I'm offering a chance for both of us. Augustus stood up. This house is too quiet. It needs life. And you need a place where you can be yourself, without fear. The tears returned, but this time they were different. They weren't from pain, from shame. They were from something Clara didn't even know how to feel anymore. Hope. I accept. Thank you very much, Mr. Augustus. Just Augustus is fine. He almost managed to smile, but held back. You can come tomorrow morning. I'll prepare a space for you to work. Bring your tools. When Clara left the manor house, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. She hugged the notebook to her chest as if it were the most precious thing in the world, and perhaps it was, because within those ancient pillars of a new beginning, the hope that perhaps, just perhaps, she could be more than the laughter and the malicious, what Clara didn't know, inside the manor house. Augustus stood at the window, watching her walk away, and for the first time in many months, he felt something stir within his chest, a sliver of light entering a room that had been dark for far too long. The next morning, Clara woke before the sun rose. She had slept little, her head spinning with 1,000 thoughts. Had Augustus really been serious? Would he have changed his mind by the time she got there? Insecurity gnawed at her like a loose dog. But she got up anyway, washed her face in the cold basin, and put on her best dress, which wasn't much, but it was clean and without obvious patches. She lived in a simple cottage at the back of the property belonging to her mother's employers, where her mother worked as a cook. Her mother, Mrs. Celia, was already awake, preparing breakfast for the employers. "Where are you going, so child?" seeing Clara packing her basket with threads, needles, and scissors. "I got a new job, Mama, at the manor house." Mrs. Celia stopped what she was doing, her wooden spoon suspended in the air. "With the landowner Augustus? Clara, have you lost your mind? The man barely speaks to anyone, lives locked up in that mansion like a ghost." "He was kind to me, Mama. He offered me restoration work. It's serious." Her mother looked at her with that mixture of worry and pride that only mothers can convey. "Be careful, daughter. Tongues here are poisonous. They'll start talking. They already do." Clara shrugged, trying to appear braver than she felt. What difference does... She arrived at the manor house when the dew still wet the grass. She knocked on the side door, as Augustus had indicated, and he appeared almost immediately, as if he had been waiting. "Good morning." His voice was less tense than the day before. "Come in. I've prepared everything." He led her to a room that overlooked the back garden. There was a large, light wooden table with good natural lighting. On the table, Helen's notebook, and beside it, a box with pieces of leather, thick threads, special glue, and tools Clara had never seen. "These were hers. Use whatever you need." Augustus stood in the doorway as if he wanted to say something more, but merely nodded and left, closing the door softly. Clara was left alone with that treasure. She opened the notebook carefully, fearing the pages would crumble in her hands, but when she began to leaf through it, she forgot everything. There were beautiful drawings of dresses, blouses, skirts, notes in careful handwriting about types of fabric, special stitches, finishing seams. Helen knew much more than any of the seamstresses at the shop where Clara worked. There were also personal notes. Today Augustus said my blue dress makes my eyes sparkle. I must make another just like it, but in green. Clara smiled, imagining the scene. Mrs. Carmen's wedding dress turned out perfect. She cried when she saw it. These moments make everything worth it. As she read, Clara understood that Helen was not just a seamstress. She was an artist, a woman who put her soul into every stitch. And she had been loved, deeply loved by Augustus. This radiated from every page, from every loving note. She worked all morning without feeling the time. First, she carefully removed the loose pages, numbering each one. Then, she began to clean the leather cover with a damp cloth and special oil she found in the bottle. The leather slowly came back to life under her hands, regaining a subtle sheen. When the sun was high, there was a knock at the... Augustus entered with a tray. Bread, cheese, fruit, and juice. "What do you need to eat?" He placed the tray on a small side. "How is it going?" "It's beautiful. Your wife was very talented." Augustus approached, looking over her shoulder at the open pages. His face soft. She could have gone to the capital city, worked for important people, but she chose to stay here, with me. There was pain in his voice, but also gratitude. She loved you very much. "You can feel it in the notes." Augustus swallowed hard and nodded, unable to speak. He left the room quickly, and Clara realized she had touched something very deep. But she returned to her work, determined if that notebook was so important to him, she would do the best work of her life. The days began to follow a rhythm. Clara arrived early, worked diligently, ate lunch that Augustus always left prepared, and returned to work until late afternoon. He appeared occasionally, always discreet, always respectful. Sometimes he asked about her progress. Other times he just stood there, in silence, watching. It was on the 5th morning that something changed. Clara was cutting a piece of new leather to replace a part of the cover that was beyond repair when she heard agitated voices outside. She recognized one of them immediately. "Leonard, the estate manager?" "Boss, with all due respect, you're making a mistake. The young woman has no references. No one knows anything about her, and people are already talking." "Talking about what?" Augustus's voice was cold. "Well, that you're taking advantage of her situation. A young woman alone, inside the house, every day." Clara felt her blood run cold. She knew they would start talking, but she hadn't imagined. "Leonard, you're fired." Augustus's words fell like a judgment. There was a shocked silence outside. "What? Boss, I've worked here for 15 years, and I never learned your name until today. You were always just the manager, but now you're the ex-manager. Pack your things and leave my property by the end of the day. You'll regret this. That young woman will make a fool of you. You'll see." "Leave!" Clara heard heavy footsteps receding. She remained paralyzed in her chair, her heart pounding. Augustus had fired the manager because of her. This would create even more problems. The door opened and Augustus entered. He looked more tired than before. "I'm sorry about it. Perhaps it's better if I don't come. I don't want to cause you problems." "You, Clara," spoke her name for the first time. "The problems already existed. You didn't create them. Leonard was always arrogant, always thought he owned this estate. I've been waiting for an excuse to get rid of him for months. He just gave me one today. But now they'll talk even more. Let them talk." Augustus pulled up a chair and sat in front. "Do you know what Helen taught me? That other people's opinions only have the weight we give them. She suffered a lot at the beginning of our marriage because she was the daughter of a small merchant and I was the son of the estate owner. They said she was a gold digger, that she had bewitched me, but we knew the truth of our love, and that was Clara felt her. "I don't want to spoil her memory." "You're not spoiling anything. You're honoring it." He pointed to the notebook. "You're bringing life back to something that was forgotten." And you're reminding me that life goes on, even when we think it's over." They remained in silence for a moment, just looking at each, and Clara understood that something was forming there, something that went beyond employer and employee, beyond lonely widower and humiliated young woman. It was the beginning of a true connection, based on respect and shared pain. "I'll continue," said firmly. "I'll finish this work, and I'll do it so well that your wife would be proud." It was the first time she had seen him truly smile, and the transformation in his face credible. For an instant, he looked years younger. She already would be, I'm sure of it. The news of Leonard's dismissal spread through the estate faster than wildfire. The next day, when Clara arrived for work, she felt the eyes of the employees on her, some curious, others hostile. She lowered her head and walked on, straight to the room she already considered her refuge, but the peace didn't last long. Around noon, 3 women appeared at the kitchen door of the manor. Clara recognized them immediately. They were wives of estate employees, the ones who always made snide remarks when they saw her in the "Hello, Clara?" The eldest, Mrs. Marlene, spoke with a smile that didn't reach her. "We came to bring some homemade treats for Mr. Augustus. It's the least we can do, poor man, living alone in this mansion." Clara knew that was a lie. They were there to snoop, to see with their own eyes what was happening. "I'll let him know you're here." Clara stood up, but Mrs. Marlene had already entered, followed by the other. "No need, dear. We're practically family." They began to circulate through the house, looking at everything with that malicious curiosity. Everything is so clean. Are you taking care of the house?" "No, ma'am. I'm just restoring a notebook." "Ah, yes, the late wife's notebook. What a shame, isn't it, to die so young, so beautiful. Augustus has never been the same." Dramatically. "A woman like that is irreplaceable. It would be an insult to try and take her place." The message was crystal clear. Clara felt her face flush, but she maintained her composure. "Excuse me, I need to get back to work." "Oh, but we really wanted to see this note. They say it's a relic." The woman tried to approach the room where Clara worked, but Augustus appeared in the hallway, blocking the way. "Mrs. Marlene," his voice was, "I don't recall inviting anyone into my home." The 3 women turned red. "Oh, Augustus, we just wanted to leave some treats. Leave them in the kitchen, and you may go. And next time, wait to be invited before entering." It was an awkward moment. The women hastily deposited the basket and practically ran out, murmuring among them. No sooner had the door closed than Clara could imagine the stories they would invent. "I'm sorry, Augustus. It wasn't your fault. They're just curious." "No, they're being cruel, and I won't tolerate it." But things were just beginning. In the following days, more incidents occurred. The weaver who brought supplies to the estate began to forget to deliver materials Augustus needed. The head seamstress at the shop where Clara worked sent word that she would never be welcome there again. And worse, Camilla, the foreman's daughter, who had always provoked Clara, began to spread even more venomous rumors. "She's clever, that plump girl. She got the widower at his weakest moment. I bet she'll turn up pregnant soon and say it's his." The comments reached Clara's ears through her mother, who grew increasingly worried. "Daughter, maybe you should stop this. It's getting dangerous." "I haven't done anything wrong, Mama," Clara protested. "I'm working honestly." I know. But you know the people here. They'll destroy your reputation." "What reputation?" "They already spoke ill of me even when I did nothing, Mrs. But it was the sabotage that almost broke Clara. One morning, she arrived in the work, found the notebook on. Someone had entered during the night and destroyed weeks of work. Clara fell to her knees, gathering the pages with trembling hands, tears falling onto the delicate drawings. Who had done this? Why? What had she done to deserve so much hatred? That's how Augustus found her, on the floor, crying, surrounded by the wreckage of Helen's notebook. He knelt beside. "Who did this?" "I don't know. I locked the door last night. I swear I locked it." Augustus picked up one of the torn pieces, and his jaw tightened. It was the page where Helen had drawn her wedding dress, with notes about her wedding day. It was torn in half. "This is cowardice," he said, his voice trembling with contained rage. "Pure cowardice." Clara tried to compose herself, wiping away her tears. I can fix it. It will be more work, but I can—" "No," Augustus interrupted. "You're not fixing anything today. Today we're going to find out who did this." He helped her up, and together they collected all the pages, carefully placing them on the table. Then Augustus called all the household staff for a meeting. There were 7 people in total: the cook, 2 housekeepers, the gardener, 2 farmhands, and the new manager Augustus had hired to replace Leonard. Everyone seemed nervous. Someone entered the workroom during the night and destroyed a personal item of mine. Augustus spoke, his voice firm. "An item of inestimable sentimental value. I want to know who it was." Total silence. People exchanged glances, but no one spoke. "I know that door has a lock," the cook said. "How did someone get in?" "Good question." Augustus crossed his arms. "Only 3 people have a key to that room. Myself, Clara, and the head housekeeper." Everyone looked at Mrs. Rita, the oldest housekeeper. She turned pale. "It wasn't me. I swear to God it wasn't me. My key is put away. I don't even touch it." "Then someone took your key," Augustus said. "Where do you keep?" In the kitchen, key rack, along with the other house key." "And who has access to that key rack?" "Well, everyone who works in the house." The net was closing in. Augustus looked at each face, one by one, as if he could read their souls. "I have a proposal," he said. "If the person who did this comes forward now, they will simply be dismissed. No police, no scandal. But if I find out by other means, and I will find out, the consequences will be far worse." The silence stretched, heavy, suffocating. Clara held her breath, her heart pounding, and then one of the younger housekeepers, Lucy, stepped forward, trembling. It was Camilla," she said, her voice thin. "The foreman's daughter. She paid me $50 to lend her the key. She said she was just going to scare her, just mess things up a bit. I didn't know she was going to destroy things. I swear." The room erupted and Augustus raised his hand, signaling for silence. "You're fired, Lucy. Pack your things and leave. As for Camilla," he looked out the window, towards the employees. "Cottages. I'm going to have a very serious talk with her father." When everyone left, Clara and Augustus were alone. She was exhausted, emotionally and physically. "Why are people so mean?" Augustus sat beside her, looking at the torn pages on the... "Because they're afraid of change, afraid of what's different, afraid of losing what they think is theirs by right." He ran his hand through his hair. "Camilla always wanted to work here at the manor house, but she's lazy and ill-mannered. I would never have hired her, and now she's jealous because you got what she wanted." "I just wanted to work in peace," Clara murmured. "I know. And you will work. I'll have a new lock made, one that only the 2 of us have a key to, and I'll make it very clear to everyone here. Whoever messes with you, messes with me." Clara looked at him, and for the first time since everything began, she felt she wasn't alone in this battle. "Thank you for everything." Augustus held her hand, a simple gesture that meant everything. "We'll fix these pages together, and when we're done, this notebook will be stronger than ever, just like you." Augustus's conversation with the foreman was quick and definitive. Camilla was forbidden from setting foot in the manor house and was grounded at home for a month. The foreman, a man of few words but much pride, offered Clara a formal apology, which surprised and embarrassed her at the same time. But the real change, 2 days after the sabotage, Clara was focused on restoring the torn pages, a meticulous job that required patience and steady hands, when she heard a carriage arriving. Through the window, she saw 3 elegant ladies alighting, dressed in obviously expensive clothes, imported fabrics, and adorned hats. Mrs. Marlene, who seemed to have ears everywhere, appeared at the manor house with impressive speed for someone her age. "Augustus, it's the ladies from the city, Mrs. Mercedes, Miss Eunice, and Mrs. Josephine." Clara had never heard of them, but from Mrs. Marlene's commotion, they must be important. Augustus received the visitors in the main parlor. Clara could hear the conversation from the next room. "Mr. Augustus, we've come because we heard about an exceptional seamstress who is working on your property." The voice was refined, from someone accustomed to being heard. "Are We're looking for someone to make the dresses for my daughter's debutante ball, and all the known names are already hired or too expensive. Miss Clara is currently restoring a personal project of mine," Augustus replied, cautiously. "Ah, but couldn't she just take a look at some fabrics? Just a quick consultation. I can pay well." There was a pause. Then Clara heard footsteps approaching. "Clara, could you come here for a moment?" She wiped her hands on her and went to the parlor. The three ladies looked her up and down, and Clara saw that look she knew so well, the silent judgment. But Mrs. Mercedes, the one who had spoken, surprised her. "My daughter also has her challenges with her body. She's not plump like you, but she has broad shoulders and a thick waist. No seamstress can make a dress that makes her look beautiful." "They say you have a special talent for working with different body types." Clara blinked. "Who had said that?" I do my best, ma'am." "Could you show me some of your work?" Clara hesitated, but Augustus nodded encouragingly. She went to fetch Helen's notebook and showed some of the already restored pages, along with the drawings. The three ladies leaned over the notebook, exclaiming with admiration, "What exquisite work! And these drawings, they're not mine," Clara hastened. "They belong to Mr. Augustus's late wife. I'm just restoring the notebook. But you understand the work. You can see it in the details." Mrs. Eunice pointed to a note Clara had made about how to reinforce a seam. "That's real knowledge. How much do you charge for a ball gown?" Clara froze. She had no idea. She had never done a job of that. "I need to see the fabric. Understand what the young lady wants?" she improvised. $300, Augustus spoke out of nowhere, including the fabric and alterations. The ladies exchanged glances. "That's expensive," Mrs. Josephine commented. "It's the price of quality work. Clara will dedicate weeks to this dress, make several adjustments, ensure your daughter looks beautiful. If you want something cheaper, there's the dressmaker at the shop in town. That woman is incompetent. She made a dress for my niece that looked like a potato sack." Mrs. Mercedes huffed. "All right, $300, but I want to see the first fitting in 2 weeks." When the ladies left, Clara was in shock. $300? "Augustus, that's more than I'd earn in 6 months at the shop. I've never made a ball gown in my life." "What if I mess it up?" "You won't mess it up," he said with conviction. "I've seen your work. I've seen how you care for every detail, how you think about every stitch. You have talent, Clara. You just need confidence." But the notebook? I haven't finished it yet." "The notebook can. This is your chance to show all these people that you're worth more than they think." Augustus smiled. "And besides, Helen would be happy to know that her knowledge is being used to help someone else." Clara felt, You really believe in me?" "I do." It was all she needed to hear. In the following days, the manor house turned into a proper studio. Augustus had more fabrics brought from the city, bought special threads, needles of different sizes. Clara stayed late working on the first sketches of the dress, studying Helen's notes on how to work with challenging bodies, how to disguise imperfections and enhance qualities. And something strange began to happen. Other women started to appear. First, it was the town doctor's wife, wanting a new blouse. Then the grocer's daughter, needing a dress for a cousin's wedding. Then the school teacher, dreaming of an elegant outfit to wear to parties. Clara attended to all of them, always afraid of not being good enough, but always surprised by words. She had a special way of talking to clients, of understanding what they truly wanted, not just what they said they wanted. "You want a dress that makes you feel powerful," she told Mrs. Eunice during, "not a dress that's who you are. How about this?" And she showed endearing design, with a generous neckline and a defined. Mrs. Eunice, a lady in her 50s, widened her eyes. "My dear, I'm past the age for such daring things." "Who says? You are beautiful. Why hide it?" It was a transformative moment. Mrs. Eunice ordered the dress on the spot, and as the orders increased, something else happened. Clara was changing, not in her body. She remained the same plump young woman she always was, but in her posture, her way of speaking, the sparkle in her eyes. She was gaining confidence. Augustus observed everything from a distance, with a discreet smile on his lips. Sometimes he appeared in the room to bring coffee, or simply to stand there in silence, watching her work. His presence was comforting, friendly. One evening, after Clara finished cutting the fabric for the ball gown, a beautiful peach-colored satin, Augustus entered with 2 cups of hot chocolate. "I thought you might need a break." Clara accepted gratefully, her fingers sore from so much sewing. "I never thought I'd be here, doing this. A month ago, I was the girl everyone mocked, who could barely look people in the... And now I have orders from some of the most important women in the region. You were always capable. You just needed a chance. A chance you..." Augustus grew serious for... "I gave you a space, the talent, the determination, the courage to continue even when your work was sabotaged. That's all yours." They fell silent, sipping their hot chocolate. Through the window, they could see the full moon illuminating. "Can I ask you something?" Clara said. "Why did you help me? That first day when I showed up at your door crying, why did you let me in?" Augustus took a long time to answer. When he spoke, his voice was laden with emotion. "Because I saw something in you that I recognized. The pain of being judged unfairly. Helen, when we met, she was poor, the daughter of a small bankrupt merchant. My family didn't accept the relation. They said she only wanted my money, that she was an opportunist. They did everything to separate us. But you stayed together." "We did. And they were the best years of my life." But Helen suffered a lot from the gossip, malicious glances. "I swore to her that I would never again let someone be treated that way. Not if I could help it." He looked at Clara within. "When I saw you at the door, with that look of someone who had been broken inside, I remembered her, and I thought, not again. I won't let this happen." Clara felt tears stream down her. Thank you for seeing me when no one else. I will always see." And in that moment, under the soft moonlight, something changed between them. It was no longer just employer and employee, no longer just kindness and gratitude. It was the beginning of something deeper, something truer, but neither of them was ready to name it yet. The day of the first fitting for the ball gown arrived, a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Clara had worked day and night for the past 2 weeks, and the dress was beautifully taking shape. The peach-colored satin gleamed under the light. The delicate embroidery on the sleeves was perfect, and the drape promised to be exactly what Mrs. Mercedes wanted. She arrived promptly at 10 in the morning, bringing her daughter, Letitia. The young woman was about 17, and Clara immediately understood what her mother meant about the challenges with her body. Letitia had broad, strong shoulders and a thick waist. But she also had a beautiful face and expressive eyes. The problem wasn't her body, it was the shame she carried for not being like other girls. Clara knew that. "Good morning," Clara greeted them both with a genuine smile. "Letitia, what a pleasure to meet you. I've prepared everything for the fitting. Shall we go to the room?" Letitia barely looked at her, keeping her head down. "Mrs. Mercedes, she's nervous. She doesn't like dress fittings." Clara understood immediately. Letitia didn't like to see herself in the mirror, didn't like to expose herself. "I didn't like it either," Clara said softly, making Letitia look up for the first time. "But do you know what I learned? That a body is just a body. What matters is how we feel inside it." She helped Letitia put on the dress carefully, talking the whole time to relax her. She adjusted here and there, marking with pins the places that needed small corrections. "There. You can look in the mirror now." Letitia hesitated, but finally turned to the large mirror Augustus had installed in the room. And what was magical, the young woman's eyes widened, her mouth open, and the dress had completely transformed her silhouette. Her broad shoulders looked strong instead of clumsy, her waist was defined without being constricted, and the length of the dress gave her legs an elongation she didn't know she had. I'm beautiful," Letitia whispered, touching the fabric with reverence. "You always..." Clara gently corrected. "You just needed a dress that showed it." Mrs. Mercedes simply. When the two left, was exhausted. She had done it. She had truly managed to do something special. Augustus appeared in the doorway, smiling. "I heard what you said to the young woman about a body just being a body." "I learned that from you," Clara replied. "When you let me in that afternoon, you saw the person, not the body. It was the first time anyone had done that." "What?" he said softly. "Helen always said you had something special. She saw you working at the dressmaking shop when she went there to get fabrics. She always commented to me, 'That young woman has magic hands. It's a shame the others don't notice.'" Clara was shocked. "So Helen talked about me?" "She did. She wanted to hire you to work with her, but she fell ill before that." Sadness returned to his face. "If she were alive, I'm sure you two would be great friends." "I would like that," Clara said. "She seems to have been an incredible person." "She was. And you are honoring her memory in a way I never imagined." That night, Clara finished the last adjustment on Letitia's dress. It was perfect, ready for the ball that would take place a week later. But instead of feeling just relieved, she felt a strange emptiness. The project was, what now? As if reading her thoughts, Augustus entered the room with an envelope. "This arrived for you today." Clara opened it and found 3 new dress orders. 3. One for a wedding, another for a christening, and a third for a birthday party. How did they know? "People talk," Augustus smiled, "and you're becoming famous, the seamstress who works miracles." "I don't work miracles, I just make dresses." "You do more than that. You restore people's self-esteem." Clara carefully put away the orders, her heart racing. She had work. She had purpose. She had a future. But something else was happening. Something she tried to ignore but couldn't. Her relationship with Augustus was changing. He was no longer just the kind employer who had given her a chance. He was the man who waited for her to arrive every morning, who appeared in the room just to watch her work, who smiled when she told him about her clients, who genuinely cared. And she was starting to feel things she knew she shouldn't feel. It was on a rainy afternoon that everything became more complicated. Clara was working when she heard agitated voices out. She recognized Mrs. Marlene's voice, always meddling in everything. "Augustus, people are talking. You need to put an end to this." "Put an end to what?" Augustus's voice was irritated. "This situation with the young woman, is she living here now?" "She works here. What's the problem?" "The problem is that you two are alone all day, and you've been seen smiling at her, and, well, it doesn't look good, not for you and not for Helen's memory." Clara felt as if she had been slapped. It was true. What they were doing wasn't right. Augustus was still grieving, still loved his wife, and she was just the plump girl who had entered his life at a moment of weakness. "Mrs. Marlene." Augustus's voice was dangerously calm. "What I do in my house, who I smile at or don't smile at, is none of your business, and certainly not the business of these gossiping people who have nothing better to do with their lives. But Augustus, that's enough. You may leave." Clara heard Mrs. Marlene's heavy footsteps receding, grumbling. She remained paralyzed in her chair, her heart pounding. She needed to leave. She needed to stop this before it created bigger problems. When Augustus entered the room, she was already gathering her things. "What are you doing?" "I think it's better if I work from home from now on. I can pick up materials and bring finished work, but it's not right for me to be here so long." "Clara, Mrs. Marlene is right. People are talking. This isn't good for you, sir. And since when do I care what people say?" Augustus took her hand, stopping her from continuing to pack. "Clara, look at me." She raised her eyes, and what she saw in his left, there was something there, something intense, something she didn't dare to name. "You are not a problem. You are the best thing that has happened in this house since Helen left." He spoke with an intensity that made her tremble. "When you arrive in the morning, the house comes alive. When you are here, working, focused, I remember that beauty still exists in the world. You made me smile again. Clara, you made me feel again. But this isn't right. You still love your... I will always love Helen. She was the love of my life," Augustus said, and Clara felt her heart sink. But he continued, "But she wouldn't be here anymore. And she wouldn't want to see me languish alone in this mansion. Helen always said, life is too short to waste on sadness. She would want to know that I found something, someone, who reminds me that it's still worth living." Clara was crying, tears streaming silently. "I don't know what I feel," Augustus. "It's still too soon. But I know I don't want you to leave. Not because of gossip, not because of anything. Please, Clara, stay." She looked at him, at that man who had appeared in her life at its darkest moment and had shown her that goodness still existed in the world, and she knew she was on the verge of something big, something that could change her life forever. "I'll stay," she whispered, and in that moment, under the rain drumming on the windows, they both understood that they were entering unknown territory, frightening, but also full of promises. Clara's decision to stay changed the dynamics of the manor house in subtle but profound ways. In the following days, she and Augustus settled into a comfortable routine, but there was a new tension in the air, an awareness of each other that hadn't existed before. Letitia's dress was delivered 3 days before the ball, and the family's reaction was so positive that Mrs. Mercedes immediately ordered 3 more dresses for herself and 2 cousins. Clara was officially established as the preferred seamstress for the important families in the region. But not everything was rosy. One morning, Clara arrived and found Augustus in the dining room with a man she didn't know. He was elegant, well-dressed, with an air of superiority that she immediately recognized. "Ah, this must be the famous seamstress," the man said, looking her up and down, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Pleasure. I'm Robert, Augustus's cousin. I've come from New York City to visit my dear cousin and see how things are going around." There was something in the way he made Clara uncomfortable. "Eos. Pleasure," she replied briefly, and went to her workroom. But Robert wasn't just a casual visit. It became clear throughout the day that he had come with a specific purpose: to convince Augustus to sell the estate and move to the capital city. "You're wasting your life here, Augustus." Clara heard Robert's voice coming from the next room. "Buried in this God-forsaken place, surrounded by, well, by simple folk. In the capital city, you'd have opportunities, society, a real life. This is my real life." "Don't be ridiculous. You're only 38. You're too young to retire from the world. And this business of hiring a seamstress to work in the house—" "Augustus, people are talking. You know what they're saying, don't you?" Clara felt her blood run cold. She knew exactly what— "I don't care about gossip." "You should care. You're tarnishing the family name." "Helen's name? She's barely cold in her grave, and you already have another woman living here." "Enough!" Augustus's voice thundered through the house. "Clara doesn't live here. She works here, and even if she did, it would be none of your business. You have no right to come to my house and dictate how I should live my life. I'm trying to help you, to protect you from yourself. I don't need your help, never have." There was a tense silence. Then heavy footsteps and a slamming door. Clara heard Robert's carriage leaving shortly after. Augustus didn't appear in her room for the rest of the day. When the sun began to set, Clara packed her things and went to look for him. She found him in the garden, standing before Helen's, a simple but beautiful headstone surrounded by flowers. "I'm sorry about my cousin," he said without turning around. "He's always been like that, arrogant, a know-it-all. He cares about you, in his own way. He cares about what others will think. It's different." Augustus finally turned around, and Clara saw that he was tired. "But he's right about one thing. People are talking. And that could harm you, Clara, your reputation, your business. My clients don't seem to care. Not yet. But what about when they do? What about when someone decides it's immoral to hire a seamstress who works alone with a widower?" Clara swallowed hard. He was right. It was a real possibility. "So, what do we do?" "Augustus, we have to be more careful, more discreet. Perhaps you really should work from your home from now on." "No." Clara surprised herself with the firmness of her own voice. "I won't let gossip dictate my life. I've spent my whole life hiding, being ashamed of existing. I won't do that again. But if people want to talk, they'll talk anyway. I can work from my home or work here. They'll invent stories just the same. At least here I have space, materials, and—" She paused. "And I have you nearby." Augustus looked at her with an intensity that made her heart race. "Clara, I know it's complicated. I know you're still grieving, that you still love Helen. But I like being here. I like working with you nearby. You make me feel safe. You make me feel seen. You were always seen. You were just surrounded by blind people. They stood there in the garden as the sun set and painted the sky orange and pink. And Augustus took a step forward, taking her hand. You're right. We won't let gossip affect us. But promise me one thing. If the situation becomes untenable, if it starts to genuinely harm your work, you'll tell me, and we'll find a solution together. I promise. In the following days, Clara noticed a subtle change in Augustus. He was more present, more attentive. He appeared in her room more frequently, always with an excuse. A coffee, a question about a fabric, a comment about the weather. But they both knew they weren't just excuses. He wanted to be near her, just as she wanted to be near him. And, of course, tongues wagged freely. Poor Helen's barely cold in her grave, and he's already found another. And look who, a plump, common woman who took advantage of his fragility. I bet she planned it all from the beginning. Those types always have a plan. Clara heard the comments, saw the glances, felt the weight of judgment. But every time she began to falter, she remembered Augustus's kiss, the way he looked at her, how his presence made her feel complete. And she carried on. But the hardest blow came from where she least expected it, her own mother. Mrs. Celia appeared at the manor house one afternoon, her face grim, and asked to speak to her daughter alone. "Clara, this has to stop," she said as soon as they were alone. "What, Mama?" "You know perfectly well what. You and the landowner, everyone is talking. They're saying you're a shameless woman, that you took advantage of a vulnerable man." "I didn't take advantage of anyone." "It doesn't matter if it's true or not. What matters is what people think." Mrs. Celia gripped her daughter's shoulders. "Clara, I know you've suffered a lot. I know you've always been judged because of your body, your insecurities. But that doesn't justify you clinging to the first man who treats you well." "That's not what I'm doing." "Then what is it? Do you think he really loves you? Do you think a man like him, rich, important, will really stay with a young woman like you?" The words hurt more than any insult Clara had ever heard, because they came from her own mother. "A young woman like me?" Voice trembling. "What is that, Mamma? A plump girl? Poor? Unimportant? That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant." Clara took a step back. "My whole life you told me to accept my not to dream too high, not to expect too much from life. But do you know what I learned? I learned that my place is wherever I decide it is, and Augustus loves me. He told me, and I believe him." "Clara, you can leave now, Mama. I have work to do." Mrs. Celia stood still, her eyes watering, but eventually left without. Clara collapsed into the chair, sobbing. It hurt too much. It hurt to be judged, to be questioned, to have even her own mother doubt her. But she wouldn't give up. She couldn't. Because for the first time in her life, she had something worth fighting for. Winter arrived, bringing cold mornings and freezing nights. Augustus had a fireplace installed in the room where Clara worked, and they spent their evenings there, she sewing, he reading, sharing a comfortable silence. Their relationship grew naturally, but Augustus respected his period of mourning. They didn't live together. They hadn't made official announcements. They simply existed for each other in a true way. Clara was saving money for the first time in her life and thought about renting her own small house, but Augustus always found excuses for her to stay longer at the estate. It was on one of those days that Robert returned, this time bringing an elegant woman. "Augustus, I brought a special visitor. This is Valentina, daughter of the Baron of Willow Creek." Robert entered as if he owned the house. Clara was in the next room and immediately understood Robert was trying to arrange a marriage for Augustus with someone of the same social standing. "I don't recall inviting anyone," Augustus replied, coldly. "Valentina was visiting the region, and I thought it would be a great opportunity for you to meet. After all, you can't stay alone forever." "Clara," Augustus called her, "come here." She entered, aware of the appraising glances. "Robert, Valentina, this is Clara, my companion." And he took her hand in front of everyone. The shock on Robert's face was visible. "Your companion, Augustus. Have you lost your mind? This young woman is your employee. This young woman has a name. Clara is a talented seamstress who works here. And she is also the person I love." It was the first time he had said that publicly. It was real. It was official. Helen's barely dead, and you're already getting entangled with... Be careful. Augustus's was dangerous. Clara is worth 1,000 times more than any spoiled society girl you try to push on me. Valentina stood up, offended. "Let's go, Robert." "Excellent idea. And Robert, don't come back unless invited. In fact, it's best if you never come back." After they left, Clara began to laugh nervously. "You just kicked out your cousin and a baron's daughter." Augustus: "I apologize for taking so long to say you are my companion. What are we, Clara? Bates, what do you want us to be?" "I want you to be..." He kissed her forehead. "But in the meantime, I want the world to know that you are my choice. My love." The news spread rapidly. The comments were... But something happened. Some people came to their defense. Letitia wrote an open letter to the local newspaper. Mrs. Mercedes wrote another. Other satisfied clients joined the chorus, and little by little, the malicious rumors began to lose strength. But not everything was, because the more time Clara spent with Augustus, the stronger the feeling she tried to ignore became. It wasn't just gratitude or friendship. It was something deeper, more frightening. She was falling in love with, and she had no idea what to do with it. Spring arrived. It had been a year since Clara had entered Augustus's life in tears. The blue dress was almost ready, waiting for a special occasion. Her relation with her mother, Mrs. Celia, and now they had a more honest relationship. But the resistance continued. The new father gave veiled sermons about inappropriate unions. Clara tried to ignore it, but it hurt. One Sunday, Clara was buying threads when she heard Camilla shouting in the church square, "That shameless, plump woman seduced poor Augustus. What a disgrace!" Clara stopped. No more. She wouldn't hide any more. She entered the square with firm steps. "Camilla." The women turned, surprised. "Since you like talking about me so much, how about talking to my face?" "I'm not afraid of you. You're an opportunist who took advantage of Augustus in his moment of weakness." Clara took a step forward. "I work, Camilla. I earn my own money. And even if I lived at his expense, what would be the problem? We are two adults who love each other." "No, man, it's immoral, disrespectful to Helen's memory. Helen's family gave me their blessing." "Do you want me to read the letter?" Camilla was speechless. "Do you know what your problem is? Envy. You always wanted to work at the manor house, and Augustus never looked at you because you have an ugly heart. You might be beautiful on the outside, but inside you're empty. How dare you?" "I dare because I'm tired of being judged. I deserve to be happy, and I will be, with or without your approval." Clara walked away with her head held high. She had defended herself. She had asserted herself. But when she arrived at the estate, she found Augustus with an elegant lawyer. "Clara, this is Mr. Henry. He has news about Helen's will." Her heart sank. Beatrice, Helen's sister, challenged the will. She claims Augustus shouldn't receive the full inheritance if he marries within the mourning period. She wants him to sign a document committing not to marry for 5 years. Otherwise, he could lose half the estate. "Half?" Clara repeated, horrified. "No," Augustus said firmly. "I will not sign anything." "But you could lose the estate." "Then I lose it, but I won't lose Clara. This property is just land. Clara is my life. I won't give her up for anything." After the lawyer left, Clara broke down. "You can't lose half the estate because of me." He knelt, holding her hands. "Don't you understand? This estate doesn't matter if I don't have you. Helen would want me to be happy, and I am happy with you. What if we lose everything? We'll start over, together. With your talent and my strength, we can rebuild," Clara cried, embracing him. It was an enormous risk, a battle that could cost them everything, but they had each other, and that would be enough. The following months were difficult. The legal battle began, with Beatrice spreading absurd stories about the couple. But the community rallied. Mrs. Mercedes organized a petition with over 200 signatures. Letitia gave talks about how Clara changed lives. Even Camilla's father testified. The trial was scheduled for October, almost 2 years after Helen's death. The night before, Clara finished the blue dress. I'll wear it tomorrow to the trial. I want everyone to see who I am." Augustus hugged her. No matter what happens, that doesn't change who we are." The courtroom was packed. Beatrice presented arguments about an improper relationship. Augustus's lawyers countered with testimonies from the community and letters from Helen's family. The judge listened to everything in silence. This case involves the right of two consenting adults to choose how to live. The cited law is archaic. There is no evidence of an inappropriate relationship. Furthermore, the immediate family of the deceased has given their blessing to the couple. He banged the gavel. "I rule the challenge unfounded. Mr. Augustus retains all rights to the property. Love has no expiration date, and mourning is not a prison. Case closed." Clara and Augustus crying with relief. They had won. Outside, a crowd waited for them. There was even a sign, "Love always wins." 2 months later, on a sunny December afternoon, Augustus knelt in the garden. "Clara, I love you. You transformed you taught me that to love again without forgetting those. Will you marry me?" "Yes, 1,000 times." The wedding was simple but beautiful, held on the estate itself. Mrs. Mercedes cried. Letitia was a bridesmaid. When the father asked if anyone objected, a respectful silence settled. Everyone understood that love was real. It was deserved. Clara wore the blue dress, and when the breeze made the flowers sway, she felt as if Helen were there, giving her final blessing. "Thank you for letting me in that day, for seeing in me what no one else saw." Clara said, "Thank you for showing me that life goes on, and that it's worth continuing." Under the bright summer sun, surrounded by love, Clara and Augustus began their new chapter, honoring Helen's memory by living fully, by loving completely. Clara built a dressmaking empire, employing women ostracized. Augustus modernized the estate, and every night, when the sun set over the fields, they sat on the porch, hands intertwined, grateful for that fateful day when a humiliated young woman knocked on the door of a lonely widower, and they both found in each other the salvation they didn't even know they were looking for. And so ends this story of love, overcoming adversity, and courage. If you've made it this far, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments, what did you like most about Clara and Augustus's journey? Which moment touched your heart the most? Your words are important to us, and we want to continue bringing stories that move, that make you reflect, and that show that true love always finds a way. Until the next story.